Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Run In Podcast. I am your host, Big Mike. Hope everybody's having a good day. Today is SummerSlam, the second biggest pay-per-view of the WWE calendar. It's the biggest party of the summer. We've got 7 huge matches coming your way. Hopefully, you guys tuned in on Thursday night, saw us on the Thursday night triple threat where we did all of our predictions. I got to go over all the people who I thought would win, went over a little bit of what I thought was going to happen, who I thought was going to win. Today, we're going to follow up on that. And as you can see from the YouTube thumbnail, we are going to discuss what I think is next for every single competitor coming out of SummerSlam 2024. All right, you ready? Let's do it. 2024 SummerSlam, huge show coming up in a few hours. Big matches, a lot of stuff going on. First up, we are going to talk about the U.S. title match, Logan Paul and L.A. Knight. Again, if you guys were with us on Thursday on the Thursday night triple threat, you heard that I thought that L.A. Knight, is going to win that one. As you can see by the little trophy that I've added to it, just because I've been playing around with a lot of graphics. Hope you guys like that kind of stuff. But again, we are here to talk about what's going to happen after SummerSlam and what I think will go forward. Look, I think Logan Paul's going through a lot of stuff right now. He doesn't show up a lot anyway, unless it's a big pay-per-view. I think he takes an extended period of time away. I don't think we see Logan for a little bit. I think he lets a little bit of, Twitter beef aside with some of his comments that he made. I won't get into any of that kind of stuff in detail here. But I think he just goes away. I think he's until maybe the week or so before either the Saudi show or maybe even the Royal Rumble. I think he takes an extended period of time off. We don't see him for a while, but I do think he does come back, and we do redo this match at another big pay-per-view again, either at Saudi Arabia or down the line at the Royal Rumble. But what does LA Knight do in between then? I think as big of a babyface as LA Knight is, if you remember a while back, LA Knight and John Cena had a lot of interaction. There's been a lot of talk about John Cena coming back next year. I think with the mega babyface LA Knight, he brings back the U.S. Championship Open Challenge that John Cena used to do. It's come back once or twice, but I think this fits his character perfectly because I think he can take it, challenge anybody, have great matches every single week, get his face on TV, get the crowd up, get the crowd chanting. And look, anybody can answer it. You've got, again, guys like Andrade, who's been wanting to go after the U.S. title. Melo, I know him and Andrade have been going after each other. Andrade's beaten him a few times, so obviously I think Andrade would probably be before him. What happens? I don't think any of the Bloodline guys or anybody like that, maybe even Randy Orton or KO, depending on how intertwined they are in the Bloodline. We'll talk about that later. I don't think any of them are going to be in that kind of mid-card title reign. But you could also, have some other guys in there. Anybody in the mid-card. You've got Corbin and Cruz. You've got Legado del Fantasma with Santos. So you've got guys that you can put in that kind of mid-card, break up some of those makeshift tag teams. I'd like to see Baron Corbin go after it. After Andrade, I think Andrade is probably that next challenger. They've mentioned it a few times on TV. So I think, whoever wins, again, I think LA Knight, but I think Andrade is probably that next kind of challenger to come after that belt. I think he'll do that. I wanted to bring back that open challenge. As I always thought that was a really cool concept. And that would just get him even more over with the fans, showing that he's got that fighting babyface spirit. Until Logan Paul comes back and then he gets his rematch at whatever big pay-per-view, because it's still going to be a money match. People want to see Logan Paul get his butt kicked, and hopefully that happens again and again and again, because I am one of those people who want to see Logan Paul get his butt kicked over and over again. And that's what I think is going to go forward. After that, not sure. Who would have the title after those two guys? Haven't really thought that far ahead, but that's where I think the U.S. title goes. Next up, you have Bailey and Nia Jax. Again, Thursday night, we talked about it. I think personally that Bailey is going to win this one. As again, my little trophy. I like it. Leave in the comments if you like the trophy. We'll kind of keep it going when I do these little, either recap videos or what I think is going to happen next after each pay-per-view, which I'll try to do, just to see where the storyline goes and see how I kind of fantasy book or how I think it's going to happen and how right I am or wrong I am, which probably wrong most of the time. And just kind of let me know. But I think Bailey beats Nia. I don't think this has been the best championship run for Bailey. It's been kind of, I don't want to say boring, but kind of boring. Little. I know that's bad because Bailey's an incredible wrestler. She's got a great personality, but just there's been something about this title run that has just not been it. I think beating Nia Jax will solidify that. And kind of opposite of what we did on the other one, we'll go with the champion first. I think Tiffany Stratton cashes in and loses. We have not had a failed cash in. I know they kind of did the swerve tonight on SmackDown or last night on SmackDown where they gave her the brand new pink briefcase. Part of me says that they want to let her hold that for a while. And maybe she tries to cash in and gets beat up in the process and doesn't get, and they could do that and have her kind of be in and out. But I think personally that Tiffany should try to cash in the same night after Nia loses and Bailey beats her as well, kind of giving her that extra credibility, one against the Queen of the Wing winner and against the Money in the Bank winner, especially with no other female failing to cash in history. It would be the first time that ever happened. I know that hurts Tiffany, but I think it just helps Bailey kind of push this title reign to another level. Excuse me there. And as far as going forward, I know, Charlotte Flair is not far from her return. I don't know that we see her at SummerSlam. You may see her the SmackDown after SummerSlam just to kind of get some buzz going, but she is not far from returning. And I think she'll come back hopefully as a heel so she can come in as the antithesis to Bailey. I don't think Nia is going to go anywhere from the title picture there. And I actually have in my notes written down that this match to me is probably one of the best examples of why the women need mid-card titles on these things. Because I think Nia Jax would be a great U.S. champion. If they were to have that, she would be a great representative of that. You'd have a good heel champion who can dominate. You'll also have people like Chelsea Green. You have people like Tiffany, Naomi, anybody like that who can kind of go in between the main event and mid-card scene. That's one of the reasons that mid-card belts for the women. I know the North American title is very young in the NXT, but I think that would really help SmackDown and Raw to be able to bridge that gap for somebody like Nia Jax, who while I think could be in the main event picture and kind of stay in that realm, I think it would be great for her to have some sort of mid-card title. Where Nia goes, obviously, don't know if they're going to introduce that. I know they've rumored it about the mid-card, but I do think she kind of stays in and around that main event picture. They may do something with her and Tiffany kind of as a tag team. Obviously, you saw on SmackDown that Alba Fire and Isla Dawn retained against Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill with some help from name just went out. I keep wanting to call her B. Priestley, which is her independent name, Blair Davenport. So, and that could lead, I thought, that it may lead to a 6-person tag on maybe the pre-show here at SummerSlam. But as of now, I have not seen that happen. So hopefully maybe they'll make a digital short, maybe in the beginning of the pre-show or before the pre-show where we actually get something on the 3-hour pre-show that's a match. That would be a good feud. You could throw Naomi in there, who Naomi and Blair have been feuding. But there aren't especially without Charlotte Flair, there aren't a lot of big name heels that can go up against Bailey. So this may actually turn into a multi-match. But I think her and Tiffany could kind of be that comedy tag team, her being the strong, similar to Piper and Chelsea, probably not as funny as Piper and Chelsea, because I don't know that there's a female on the roster that's funnier than Chelsea, but they could kind of go in that role as well. Hopefully they still do some stuff. And like I said, depends on who comes back. If Charlotte Flair doesn't come back, they probably hold off on that and let Nia stay in the main event picture between Naomi, Tiffany, her, and kind of go from there. Next up, we have Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker. I don't think that they're going to let Braun Breaker lose again. I think they would be crazy too, as much as they built him up. So I do think Braun Breaker, as I said the other day, is going to win this match. And again, what does that mean for Sami Zayn? He's lost his title. What's next for him? I think, and I won't say too much because it plays into some of the matches that are later. I think he goes into the main event picture. I know that's kind of weird to say, oh, you lost your title, you're going to get pushed in the main event picture. But I will go into that part. I will go into more to Sami Zayn when I get to the Damian Priest and Gunther match, because it ties into that a little bit. But I do think Braun Breaker wins this. I want it to be a squash match, to be completely honest. The whole reason they said Braun Breaker didn't win at the last pay-per-view was because he didn't take Sami seriously. He overlooked him. He has been more focused. He's been more dangerous coming forward. And I think it really should be that kind of Brock Lesnar, John Cena match that they had when Brock Lesnar just came in and destroyed John Cena and took the title. Really think that elevates Braun to a degree. There's not going to be an open challenge, kind of like I mentioned with LA Knight with this mid card. Next challengers for him, you've got guys like Sheamus, who they've talked about a lot, has never won that Intercontinental title. They would have banger after banger after banger, to use Sheamus's catchphrase. Huge matches between those two. You could have Ilya Dragunov kind of back in that scene as well. You could have Pete Dunne, because they've done some of that in between there with those matches and things like that. So there are a few guys that you could have as their next challenge, as his next challenger to come through. The first up, I think, would be Sheamus, just because that would be a really good match. I don't think Sheamus takes it off of him right now. I think he could take it off of him maybe around WrestleMania time. I think Braun will hold it for a little while, just because I don't think that they want to stop his momentum. And they may actually take him through to some lower mid-card guys, the likes of a Tozawa, maybe the Creed brothers, some of those guys that are a little bit further down on the card. I know they've got some other stuff going on, but I'm talking a little bit more down the road, just to have some big matches really squash and show how dominant he is, if that makes more sense. But I do think that, Braun Breaker and Sheamus, take my money. That's going to be a meat match. Just those two hard hitters, they would beat the crap out of each other, and I'm here for it. I love to see it. Next up, you have Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, and I'm excited for this match. I think it's going to be a really good match. I do think Liv takes it with some shenanigans. I won't go into great detail because I talked about it on Thursday night. And please do go back and watch that at They Call Me Mr. U YouTube channel, and here on the Run In simulcasted there. So you can watch it on either channel. Go back and take a look. See who we all picked. Me, Sped, EC, and Mr. U. But I think there's going to be shenanigans. So I don't think this storyline ends here. I think it continues on. You've got Bad Blood coming up in a few months. So that would be a perfect place to kind of end this feud, is at Bad Blood, because of the Revenge Tour, because of how personal it's gotten with Dominic Mysterio, the Judgment Day, her trying to influence Rhea's family. So I think they stay intertwined for the foreseeable future. Next up, Damian Priest and Gunther. Again, talked about it a little earlier. I think Sami Zayn will play into this going into the future, because I do think your winner is Gunther. They have had a rocket on Gunther since he came up to the main roster. Again, longest reigning Intercontinental Champion, big, powerful guy, has, ran through the entire roster. Now in this spot after winning King of the Ring, and I've talked about it before. You can't, somebody from the King and Queen of the Ring has to win. And since I've got Nia losing, I really do think that Gunther needs to win this to make the King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring feel a little bit more special. So next year, when the next people win, they're like, well, whatever. They get a title shot. Who cares? With the other two lost, nobody's ever won. Whatever. So I do think that's one of the reasons they're going to have him win. Not to mention the next pay per view is Bash at Berlin. And you've got a couple of challengers that could come up next for Gunther. One of them being Ilya Dragunov, who in NXT UK, they've had some really great matches, some really hard hitting matches. They had one in the King of the Ring tournament as well. So I think that could be probably the first challenger. Maybe he wins a number one contenders match on Raw or something and gets to go to Bash at Berlin, because I think that's probably the money match in Berlin. Two European guys clashing, and they're both hugely popular over there, even more so than over here in the States. I do think Sami Zayn will be factored into his run, just because he is the one that ended the Intercontinental range. So I think Sami has that caveat to say, look, yeah, I know I lost my title. I lost to Braun Breaker. There's no shame in that. The dude's a freak, as we say every week on Raw. You hear him on commentary that he's the unpredictable badass. Nothing wrong with losing to that guy. But if I remember correctly, Sami Zayn beat Gunther for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania. So he's got that he can come back and say, well, if I beat you for that title, I think I could beat you for this title. And that kind of gives him a little credence for a title run as well. I think Damian Priest kind of goes away from the title picture for a minute, just because I think he's going to be doing other stuff. I do think the Judgment Day probably turns on him either at SummerSlam or maybe the night after he loses. Finn Balor's been teasing it for weeks now. I think wherever Finn Balor goes, JD goes. So I think both of them will splinter off until they're into their own little faction. Carlito may just go away. Carlito may go with JD and those guys. I think Dom goes with Finn and them, just because I think Dom, as I spoke about earlier, the shenanigans in the Liv and Rhea match, I think Dom costs Rhea. Either by accident at SummerSlam, and then maybe they break up the Monday after because Liv's so mad at him, and Dominic just says, you know what, I'm done with this. Why would I take this every week? Why would I not go be with the person who actually cares for me, and that's Liv? And he turns on him. Or he just flat out costs Rhea that night, and everything's blown up, and then they go forward. I think that may be the better way to do it, really, because then you have Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley together as kind of being out of the group of the Judgment Day on their own, as two big baby faces that you've created out of this group, who are probably two of the bigger baby faces in Raw or on Raw right now. Just as far as how big the crowd pops for them, how popular they are. So I think you have those two go against the new Judgment Day with all of the old Judgment Day plus Liv Morgan. But I think that's where that story goes. Next up, we have CM Punk and Drew McIntyre with Seth Rollins as the special guest referee. I've went back and forth in this, and I talked about it on Thursday. I went back and forth a lot. I get all of the talk about, neither one of them can lose. It hurts both of them to lose. Why would they do that to McIntyre? Again, he's been screwed over. There's so many times. Why would they still continue to screw him over? And I'll tell you why. Because again, I think CM Punk wins the match. I just don't see CM Punk losing his first televised singles match since he's come back to the company. I know he came back so long ago, back at War Games last year, but his first overall match on television was the Royal Rumble. Then he got hurt. He has had some dark matches here and there where he's been in the ring. I just don't see him losing his first match back in the company. And there's a very easy way to do it, where Seth Rollins costs Drew McIntyre either directly or indirectly. And Drew McIntyre continues really what his character has been this entire time. His character, since even before WrestleMania, has been this justified heel that is like, why do I keep getting screwed? Why does all this keep happening to me? And through no fault of my own, I keep losing. CM Punk's been screwing me. Seth Rollins screwed me now. it continues his character progression that he's had. So I don't think it hurts him to lose in that fashion. And again, kind of the same thing with Rhea and Liv that I said. I don't think these three are going anywhere. I think they're going to continue this three-way feud, War of Words. They may swap up some matches. You may see Seth and Punk. You may see Seth and Drew. I think it ends after a while with a triple threat match, hopefully in like a Hell in a Cell. Maybe at Bad Blood again. That would be a perfect pay per view to have this Bad Blood Hell in a Cell with these three guys in a three-way Hell in a Cell match, just beating the living hell out of each other to finally end this feud, and then they can go on to do other things. But I don't see how McIntyre comes out in a win. I know Mr. U mentioned, and a couple of the guys on the show mentioned. I've seen people mention it online that you could end it in a draw or a double DQ, and you can do that. I don't know that I don't know that helps Punk. And not that you have to help Punk, but a draw win or a non-finish or a double finish doesn't give McIntyre that justification that he's screwed out again because it's a non-finish. He didn't necessarily lose. No, he didn't win, but he still didn't necessarily lose the match. So I think by giving CM Punk the win here, it fires up Drew even more. It brings him to even bigger heel status. And then you go from there. Hopefully I'm right. Who knows? Last up, Solo Sikoa, Cody Rhodes, WWE Championship, Bloodline rules, as we found out on SmackDown. So, I mean, with anything Bloodline rules, there's going to be a lot of interference. A lot of interference. And I don't, and kind of the same way with a couple other matches. There's no way after the build up from WrestleMania, finishing the story, everything going on, that they can let Cody Rhodes lose this match. Cody Rhodes has to win this match somehow. And if that's Jimmy Uso coming back, that I've heard rumor about. Okay. What I personally think happens is I think Roman Reigns comes back at Royal Rumble, or not Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, whatever pay-per-view we're doing today. SummerSlam, sorry. I think Roman Reigns comes back. I don't think there's another way to do it. Again, a couple of guys on the Triple Threat podcast, disagree that they think Jimmy should come back first. And again, either way you do it, you can build it the good way and make it make sense. But in this noggin, and what makes sense to me the most, and I think I even did talk about this a little bit, it makes the best sense for me for Roman Reigns to come out first, not to build up to the final, quote unquote, final boss, not necessarily The Rock, but not to build up to that final enemy, like bringing Jimmy back, Jay back, and then Roman comes back at the end. I think it is better because you want Roman, all the chants, all the we want Romans, the thank you Romans, all of that. If you want to grow that even bigger, show some humility and show it week after week after week, not just one time showing up at one big pop. Show it every week. Come back at SummerSlam, help Cody Rhodes, whether you have the handshake or not, who knows? Maybe they still have a stare down and he just walks off and it's like, maybe I'll see you another time. You handle your business, I'll handle my business. Take care of your house, I'll take care of my house, but I'll still see you down the road kind of thing. So they're not necessarily together. So you don't have him back in the title picture right away, but they're still connected. Have Roman go through, get beat down maybe a couple times by the new bloodline because he's obviously outnumbered. Then you have Paul Heyman come back as maybe a distraction. You have Paul Heyman come out and say, "Oh, by the way, maybe there's somebody else here to help your Roman out. You need some help." Jimmy Uso comes back, the first guy that Solo took out when he took his position. So now you have two of them. There you go. But still, you've got the numbers game. You're outnumbered some. Maybe they have another draft. I don't think that they will before then. But I mean, it's the way they're doing it now. They could always do a trade, bring Jay back over. And as you're doing it, you're having Roman saying, look, I know I know what I did was messed up. I got deluded. I got egotistical. But in my heart, I did everything for our family. This is not for our family. I need you guys to help me bring the family back together, to be the tribal chief that I should have been the first time. And then he starts bringing them back. You could even bring Sammy back if you want to. I don't think you should. I mean, they're still bloodline family members that are in supposedly signed with WWE or on the indies or independent or free agents that you can bring in. I think you could, maybe bring in somebody else for the OG bloodline. Once you bring, the Usos back, they're still kind of outnumbered by one, and kind of build up a team that way. Bring in one or two of the newer guys. Have a War Games match between the two of them at War Games at November 30th in Vancouver, and then kind of culminate there. And then where you go from there, I don't know. I think my brain would explode if I tried to think that far ahead on the bloodline. You don't want it to get too bloated. I mean, and it may already be. You don't want it to be an NWO where you have a NWO and an NWO Wolfpack and an NWO, Latino, which turns into the LWO original. You don't want 5 different splinter factions of the bloodline. Maybe the War Games is bloodline tribal combat kind of thing for the actual tribal chief, and everybody has to fall in together, and a few people splinter off into their own thing. But I think that's ultimately where that has to go. And that all starts with Roman Reigns coming back at SummerSlam and starting his apology tour and going on from there. And you may say to yourself, where does that leave Cody Rhodes? He's still the champion, but what happens there? Look, there are plenty of things that can happen with Cody Rhodes. There are plenty of dream matches that we've already talked about. A lot of people thought Randy Orton was going to be here at this spot where Solo is at SummerSlam. They were going to wait to do Solo. I think Randy Orton coming out of SummerSlam, especially when Roman Reigns comes back, I think Kevin Owens and Randy Orton could both be a little pissed about that. Like, hey, he's coming in to help you. You told us to stay at home. Why did you know he was coming? Are you working with the bloodline now? What's going on? Kind of thing. And Kevin Owens may be the first guy because he's probably, as much as Randy Orton has against the bloodline because they put him out of action, so did Kevin Owens. So both of those guys could be a little mad at Cody with Roman helping him, and you could have those two matches, going forward where after the match everybody makes up. But those are two huge matches that come through it, and then you let that go until the bloodline finishes, and then you get into Royal Rumble and WrestleMania season, and then Roman comes back, I guess. If he's the one that ends up ending the bloodline, or if somehow Cody or Solo wins over Roman in that final battle and Solo becomes the head of the table and the tribal chief, then they can have their rematch because, let's face it, and at SummerSlam, the way I've got it booked, Cody Rhodes doesn't win clean. So it just creates a lot of stories. And I think that's just what you need. Your second biggest pay-per-view of the year, it's not a year-ender where you're ending all your stories, for the most part, and kind of resetting like WrestleMania. So, bringing in a lot of those plot devices and things like that to further stories and create new stories is really what you want to do on a big pay-per-view like this. Again, I think all 7 matches are going to be incredible. I don't know that there's a bad match in there. Hopefully they add a pre-show match. I really hope they add a pre-show match because I don't know that I'm going to sit through 3 hours of, as much as I like Big E, Jackie Redmond, Wade Barrett and all those guys. I don't want to sit through just 3 hours of them talking about everything that's already happened. That may be what you get because, again, as of time of recording, I have not heard of a match being added. If you have, please let us know in the comments. But yeah, that's SummerSlam. Biggest party of the summer. You excited? You ready to go? Again, just kind of review. There's all of my winners. I know it's kind of hard to see some of the slides. LA Knight, Braun Breaker, Bailey, Liv Morgan, Gunther, CM Punk, and Cody Rhodes, I think, are my winners. Again, I don't know that there's going to be a bad match in the lot. I think match of the night could very well. I'm going to surprise you. I think it's going to be Gunther and Damian Priest. And I say surprise, and not necessarily that's a surprise, but I mean, I think Priest is going to come in with something to prove, especially with the whole thing about the rope mess up against Drew. So, and I think he's going to come in with something to prove. And Gunther's always Gunther. Gunther's always going to put on a great match. So I really think that's going to end up being the match of the night. Personally, I'm really looking forward to Liv and Rhea because I'm a huge fan of both of those ladies. I think they're both incredible. And I like the soap opera part of it. I've spoken in the past that I love the story element of wrestling, and I think there's a ton of that in this. So, I mean, I don't think you can ask for anything more. I think they said it's going to be like 8 hours. So strap in, get some popcorn, get comfortable. Make sure you watch it, and please go follow us at _ I say us all the time. It's really just me. Go follow me at _ Big Mike 27 on all socials. Follow and like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. We just hit 50 subscribers. We are going to start trying to do, again, I'm going back to I'm just going to go with it. That's fine. We're going to start trying to do some live episodes. I may start trying to do, I may put up a poll on X. And I know we'll say because I'm going to have some of my guys from the Thursday Night Triple Threat podcast help me out. Maybe do some recaps of some of the weekly shows, SmackDown and Raw, NXT. May even try to do some live watch alongs, things like that. Really just depends on what you guys want. Again, I'll put a post up on X, a poll to go through. So whatever you guys want me to see, man, if there's something you want to see that you haven't heard me talk about, if there's something you want me to go to, we are going to continue the top 5 series that I've been doing. The next one up, you had a big TNA show. My next top 5 coming in is going to be the top 5 things I want to see next from the WWE TNA crossover. That will be dropping probably sometime this coming week. I've got more planned after that. We're going to go, make sure to tune in on the Thursday Night Triple Threat podcast with myself, Mr. U, Sped Rock, EC. We are going to be going over all of SummerSlam, what really happened. I can kind of talk about if I was right on any of this or not. And as you know, as I said before, I'm not going to just shy away if I'm wrong. I'll let you know if I'm wrong, but I'm going to let you know if I'm right too. So yeah, stay tuned. Follow us. Keep going with us. Enjoy wrestling. It's a great time. A lot of stuff going on. Hope you all have a good night. Thank you for watching.